Welcome back to Leeds Lately. Today's video is going to be a tactical preview of the game against QPR this weekend, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Martí Cifuentes' QPR and how they might set up against Leeds United and how Leeds might be able to combat that. First thing we're going to talk about is the way that QPR will build up from the back. If a team is playing a mid-block, which Leeds don't really play too often, but there are times where we don't press as high. QPR could build up in a similar situation to this, them being in the red here. You can see that they would have the goalkeeper here just on the penalty spot, and you'd also have your two defenders who are trying to build out from the back. So the ball comes into one of your centre-backs, and then you have a look here, and these are the full-backs. Now, we're used to seeing with Leeds that the full-backs will go high and wide up to these situations here. But in reality, what QPR will do is sometimes tuck their fullbacks in narrow, create almost a bit of a reverse Christmas tree formation here, with the wingers going really high and wide to offer the out ball. So when the ball comes into here, you might get our winger pressing, but you might have then an option in here to play between the lines. So sometimes when they build out from the back, they'll tuck the narrow fullbacks in order to create more chances for them to play out from the back. The second thing that they'll do is try and use the striker to pin the back line in. Now, sometimes it'll be the striker who pins the back line in, and sometimes it'll actually be the striker that drops a bit deep, depending on who they're playing against. And you'll actually have the winger on both sides tuck inside to occupy here both centre backs and the full backs as well, to try and offer an option there, so that when they do play out from the back, they can create those rotations on the wing. Now, the rotations that QPR like to make is that if, for example, the ball comes out to this right-hand side here, there will be an option where the fullback actually goes, do you know what? I'm going to go high and wide here, which means this central midfielder can come in here, win the ball, and then you'll actually have the winger drop out wide and offer those rotations to try and stop Leeds being able to stop QPR getting through with the ball. The main way in which they'll try to create chances is through switches of play. So, for example, where you've had this rotation here, the ball will come in here, and Leeds will all try and slide across to try and combat this situation. You might have Junior Firpo tucked in a little bit here, and Leeds will kind of all be in a bit of a blanketed situation there, trying to come across to stop the ball. Now, if this player receives the ball with the back to goal, he's got the option here of switching the play, and that is something that QPR really want to try and do. They want to drag everybody across here to one side in order to give them an option to switch the play over to this side, and that is where a lot of the times teams will find space in behind. Now, Leeds do play with quite a high line as well, so it's important that Firpo and Bogle don't get caught out in these transitional situations when the ball is switched over to the other side of the pitch. Sometimes, like I said, the striker is aware that they may have to drop in these situations. So let's say that we reset a little bit here. Leeds have out wide a bit. And it's this situation here. And QPR are trying to play through the lines, essentially. The striker is aware that sometimes, instead of playing on this back line, which sometimes they try and play in the back line to pin the opposition in, he is aware that sometimes he will actually have to drop into here to try and receive the ball to allow his wingers to run beyond him. Now, the wingers for QPR often stay wide as they can until they get to the final third, in which they then try and make runs in behind into the box. So if Leeds are on the being attacked on here on the break, you may see that the number 9 will actually drop into this space to allow, when the final third comes about, a ball in behind for the striker, which hopefully Meslier will come and clean up. But those are the dangerous situations in which they try to get through on goal. They do adapt based on your formation. This is some of the things that they would do if they were playing against a mid block, which Leeds do press higher at times, so that might look a little bit different. So When we're talking about that, the width of their back line depends on whether the opposition wingers like to press. So, for example, sometimes they might actually drop into a 3 here with one of the midfielders dropping into the back line. And instead of going really wide like this, if somebody like Dan James, who we know likes to press and Leeds like to try and squeeze that, they might actually tuck in a little bit more narrow here. And then you've got those options in midfield to try and come short and receive the ball when they are playing out from the back. So, yeah, they could go narrow to try and help in those situations when trying to play out from the back. When they are trying to play out from the back, they will have the midfielders drop in to create that space. Because of the way that they play and because of the way that Leeds press aggressively, the reason that Martí Cifuentes, his QPR side, battered us 4-0 in a game where we really didn't play very well, but they did play really, really well. And he said part of the reason for that is always having that spare man in midfield to come and receive the ball. And when they were playing out from the back, it was a case of these midfielders, 6 and 8, being really willing runners to come in here, receive the ball, and try and play out from the back. And they were able to get a lot of joy getting beyond us like that. I feel like we're a lot stronger this season in that aspect with the likes of Tanaka, Rothwell, Gruev, and whoever else may play in that midfield, that we are a little bit more likely and able to defend those situations with a bit more tenacity and a bit more adaptability, I think, because last season we really struggled in those situations. And the last thing is as well that the midfielders often like to drop into the back line. So, for example, here, the midfielders may drop into the back line here and pick up a position in the fullback position, and that would be your for example, your holding midfielder might drop into the left back position and look to play those balls forward fast. And it's not about your Sam Allardyce long ball football. It's more about getting the ball into the front line as fast as possible to try and create those spaces. So when they do, it means that the number 9, for example, who might be here, he might come across to receive that ball, and it then allows the midfielders and whoever else, fullbacks even, to get forward and make runs beyond the back line in a situation where they've gone from defence to attack like that. So it's not a case of necessarily trying to play ridiculously long ball football. It's more about the fact that if they do have the opportunity, they will use the midfielders to hit the front line pretty quickly to allow other players to come in as well. Now, what we've talked about there is very much what QPR will do to try and put their own way of playing on us. And given the fact that it's Leeds, and given the fact that we're in the situation we're in, we need to dominate this game. And so they won't be able to play exactly how I've said there. That's their ideal way of being able to play if the Leeds players play exactly into their hands. Given the experience that now Farke has of playing against this Martí Cifuentes side and what he learned from the last time, I think the two midfielders that we have in there are more competent at being decisive enough and agile enough to deal with the movements of their midfielders runners. Also, I think the fact that we'll play so high and wide with our fullbacks as well will pin them in a little bit so that they are having to sit in with a back four at times. And when they do then try and play out from the back, you've got players who can press instantly. When midfielders come short to try and receive the ball, you've got our midfielders that can do that as well. And I also think with those situations that we've got there, there'll be times where they do try and hit the front line, but we'll have midfielders in here who can come short and stop the ball. And when they do go down the wings, I think Firpo and Bogle have got that ability to get back as well. So we just need to be very careful. When they attack us, we need to be careful that we don't leave too many men forward in those situations where they may be able to actually get in behind us. Their rest defence as well, they like to have an extra player in. So let's say that Leeds have just turned the ball over here and they've just won it back, and now Leeds are trying to attack again. But let's say that QPR were on the attack up here, and Leeds are now trying to attempt to go back on a counter-attack. In this situation, QPR have two players back here. They would always make sure that they've got an extra man in there. So, for example, Leeds are trying to play forward. Leeds have got two here. one is marked by this one is marked by this one, they'll always try to have a free man in the rest defence to try and be able to cover wherever he needs to, whether that's dropping in at centre-back, going over to this side if the ball comes out here. They always want to have a free man in that rest defence. So it's important that when we do break, we try to break in numbers to not allow them to have that extra man in there, so that we can break on them with more impact. And then when the ball is played out, we can try and outnumber them rather than them outnumbering us. So it's a bit of back and forth and a little bit of chess, but I think Farke will definitely have learned from that last game against them and will have improved. Well, that game last season, towards the end of last season, and will have definitely improved on the way that we're going to play against them. So I think we've got the beating of them. I think we do. But Martí Cifuentes is no slouch. He's got a good team with good tactics. And I think that he will try at times to try and impress his own style of football on Leeds. So it's important that we don't let that happen in these situations that I've described here. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately, though. Let me know what you think of the of our chances on Saturday, and I will be live for that game as well, so don't forget to join me for that one. Make sure you hit that big red subscribe button down below, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching Leeds Lately.